Oh my God, boys. We are officially dealing with a fucking sand scram.
This week on the Squatchers Lounge podcast, we're going to take a little detour from our scheduled programming and welcome the newest Apeman and member of our own genus, Homo Naledi. There were several interesting entomological finds this week, but this one is the biggest, folks, and interesting for Bigfooters for reasons that we'll discuss later, after the news and some words from our sponsors, etc. So it is without further ado, I give to you the host of our show, the Reverend Jeff Kelly.
Look at that. Another day, another dollar, another week, another show, and we are officially 5,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you very much to everybody who actually watches the show, subscribes, and enjoys it. We do it for you guys because it sure isn't for the money. With me, as always, is Dr. David Batdorf, pseudoscientist. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. We ended up with so many news links on this one that we just had to just sort of, we'll go for the topic we were going to do the following week and just going to ride this anthropological madness into the ground. Hoo-ha!
Hoo-ha is absolutely right. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight because this is going to be cool stuff. But first up, as always.
And now for the Squatchers Lounge news, bringing you the most up-to-date topics from across the interwebs week after week after week. The Squatchers Lounge podcast. Let's get newsy.
That's right, but we're not getting to the professor quite yet, but we'll get there. All right, well, first up to our sponsor, Dr. Squatch Soap Company. That's right, step into the shower and escape to nature. I'm up on the Irish Spring type stuff, the spearmint basil scrub. Holy crap, Irish Spring can kiss my ass. Okay, this is just damn good stuff. You can get it at .com, or you can look up Dr. Squatch on Facebook, and they are all over the place. Thank you, gentlemen, for sponsoring the podcast. All right, first up tonight, we're talking about how scientists use hidden camera traps to get incredible cameos of animals in the wild. Look at that little kid cat.
So this is a really cool kind of expose that this guy did on his setup. He's working in South America using DSLR cameras. He probably should have a little bit more enclosure around him because one of his cameras actually gets like destroyed by termites and stuff like that. But a really cool, really simple setup that if you had a kick around camera, let's say, or something that you could, enclose your camera within, that anybody could set up. It's not terribly intrusive. Has a trigger basically where this animal is standing. There's an infrared trip line, basically an infrared trigger that goes along the ground, and he's got two flashes in Tupperware containers, and he got nice even light, and he's focused the camera on the spot where he's going to take that picture, and basically he's got this huge collection of these really amazing shots up close of these critters where he just left his camera out in the woods or in the jungle, technically, for weeks to months at a time. So a really cool look at, like, definitely if I had the means or a little bit more gear, could really put something like this together pretty easily.
That's just fantastic looking close-ups, but it's definitely not from your regular old camera trap. That is for sure. Hey, no. Good news. The panda cub at the National Zoo is growing, weighs nearly 2 pounds. Dude, I have my entire life been keeping up with the pandas at the National Zoo. It used to be old Ling Ling and Sing Sing, and the little bastards wouldn't screw to save their species for the nothing of them. And when they would, they'd come out with some runty little thing that would die on them a month later. So, hallelujah, this thing's already up to 2 pounds and growing. But I don't think it's Ling Ling and Sing Sing anymore. I think they've done... it's not. It's Tin Tin and Yin Yin. They done mixed them up because they wouldn't screw to save their species. That's the problem with the pandas. But look at that little guy. I'm so cute.
They're adorable. The pandas, even in the wild, which is why they're having so much trouble dealing with the pressures that they're dealing with, is that their mortality rate is just so high because they're so hard to rear on the nutrient poor diet that they have. Anyway, but they're adorable, and we'll give this little guy the go for it, dude.
That's right, man. Get bigger, become a big boy, breed for another year. Anyhow. Just blame Bigfoot for the inability to bust illegal pot farmers safe. What? Yeah, so the Texas law enforcement get this tip from some hog or some hog wranglers, I guess that they call them hog hunters, that there's a pot farm and a pot camp up in this Texas National Forest area. So they get all their buddies together. The cops get all their shenanigans in line, and they go out there to rustle up these pot farmers. And sure enough, they come across these Bigfooters who are out there looking for Bigfoot just to stick in the friggin' program here. I don't think the Bigfooters were really trying to stop them from finding the marijuana guys, but apparently the Delta County Sheriff, Rick Smith, told reporters that the crop, which was estimated to have a value of around $6 million, was the largest discovery of marijuana found in his career. So they got the crop. They got all the plants. Woohoo. They can parade it around on television. It's going to be legal in another friggin' year or two anyhow. Woo! I'll get to let all them people out of jail anyhow. I don't know what you're trying to put them in jail for in the first place. Anyhow, according to NPR, the illegal cultivation operation had been there since around May. The growers had it fully equipped campsite, complete with generators, watering systems, and camouflaging materials. That's how it gets done, folks. Thanks to High Times for that one. What do you think, man? Bigfooters screwing up the pot farms?
I'm pretty sure that the Bigfooters were just a part of the story alongside. I don't think they were actually impeding anybody's, ability to bust what they actually busted. So
I guess the question though is, is Bigfoot eating pot and getting hallucinations on the highs? Maybe that's where those orbs are coming from. Who knows? Anyhow, apes do the darndest things. That's right. Chimps displaying hunting, foraging skills that may have served early hominids just as well. That's kind of creepy, dude, to think that these things are evolving to the Stone Age and they're going to start hunting us, I think, before too long. The chimps are pissed, man. They're just pissed at the humans. What's going on here, brother?
Yeah. Here's the thing is basically we're just giving the Stone Age back to the chimps. They're not evolving into the Stone Age. It's like, oh, wait, well, the more we look at them, the more they're doing all these things already. Okay, I get it. They probably were doing that the entire time, which actually makes you have to look at the different types of tool use that we're talking about. When we refer to the Stone Age, we're referring to actual crafting of stone into tools. So to say that the chimps are crafting tools, maybe they're into the wood and stick age, but our common ancestor may have been in the wood and stick age when we left that together. So that's a very interesting question, actually. So if chimpanzees can still do this and they didn't need to evolve their tool making abilities, and then we did, that would make total sense that they would still have this very primitive thing. And so it's not that they're doing the darndest things or that they're learning, or it's going to be some sort of like Planet of the Apes uprising anytime soon. It just means that we were probably both doing the same damn thing 6 million years ago, and then they just stuck with it where we thought it wasn't good enough.
Right on. Well, that's how the apes do the darndest things. 12 theories of how we became human and why they're all wrong. Thanks to National Geographic for telling us all of our theories are wrong. Mark Strauss of National Geographic tells us, well, we make tools. And this is the whole thing we were just talking about. Tell me about
I was going to say, we've as you scroll down, we've talked about all this stuff. We're not the only species that makes tools. However, a bilateral hand axe in the Acheulean tools of Homo erectus, that's very much something special that the chimpanzees cannot do. We're killers. Well, we've talked about the killer chimpanzees and how they're wiping out entire species, and then they're going to hold up probably Afarensis, Australopithecine, Afarensis child there, and talking about how they were killers and killed each other, and you can see the fractured skull line. Okay, we're the only ones who share food, and okay, so we've learned that there's a lot of this food sharing, and maybe they were talking about is it the Dmanisi specimen where they fed the man who had no teeth. Okay, we swim in the nude. Well, we know that there's lots of aquatic apes all of a sudden that are swimming all around. Maybe not apes, maybe other simians. But
I saw an orangutan in a damn canoe the other day. Okay, just with a baby under his arm, just like using his hands for paddles. It was just going down some damn creek in orangutan country because it saw some human do it. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Anyhow, we throw stuff. Yeah,
so we throw stuff. Well, a lot of other things throw stuff, and we had
a monkey that threw poop.
Yeah. So the fact that we've actually seen chimpanzees actually hunting with stones, at least to stun animals and other things like that. Okay, so yeah, we're not the only. This is not part of our evolution. We hunt. Well, we've seen organized chimpanzee hunts. We finally filmed that a few years ago. Okay, we trade food for sex. Now,
I wish. Hey, baby, I got a double animal style going on over here.
Yeah, who doesn't? Anyway, no. So basically, it's talking about how we used to carry food around to trade for mating, and that's why we've been. No. These are just kind of other theories.
They hang out with us because we got the meat. That's the way it's always worked. The more meat you got, the more chicks are on your ass. Anyhow, sorry. Okay, we eat cooked meat.
We cooked meat, and that's why our big hungry brains, and that's why we got all. Okay, so I can if we just keep going down, this just really ties it all together. So we adapt. Okay, everything adapts. That's why it's still here. There's things that aren't adapting fast enough.
We unite and conquer.
We unite and conquer. Well,
again, we divide and conquer.
Maybe that's the same too. So basically, why all of these theories are wrong is not exactly why National Geographic is saying them in this article. They're talking about the individual fallacies of it. It's because it was no one of any of these things that led to our evolution. It was all of these things.
Right.
In concert that allowed us to get to where we are today. There's no one, a stone wasn't anything. Our brains didn't grow because we ate meat. Or cooked meat. Our brains grew so that we figured out how to make the best of the situation, or understood that that's makes us feel better, or somehow.
Well, we're gonna talk about that cooked meat too here in just a little bit, about how old that might just be.
Yeah, and so those are sort of like, those are like precursors. Like, did the meat grow the brain, or did the brain grow and need the meat? Those are the sort of questions that you can't really answer, but it doesn't matter. It's part of the overall concerto of effects that made us human, not any one of these things.
Exactly.
There we go.
Check it out at nationalgeographic.com.
Yeah, they're all wrong because they support themselves and not the whole picture.
That's right. Shift in human ancestors' diet earlier than previously thought. Key to move to grass-based food was 400,000 years earlier than previously known. Johns Hopkins University studying the old teeth, old fossils of these ape people and old hominids and Homo sapien and erectus and all these other people. They got 152 tooth fragments in Ethiopia in an isotope analysis to find evidence of the diet change itself.
Yeah, I mean, they can look at a lot of things. They can look at the wear on the teeth, and they can look at the actual isotopes to see what's still on the teeth, because there's trace elements of all sorts of things. And, of course, there's the background stuff that you would expect to see on there, but then there would be like grass or something like that. So easy to look for those isotopes when you know what to look for, because
that also goes to the point of when we've moved from hunter-gatherers to agriculture.
Or this is even looking like when we shifted our diets from being kind of fruit and insect eating apes like the chimpanzees still are, to this more plains oriented sort of a thing. Now, what this is said, I believe that it's taking it back to, I just had this up. It's taking it back to an area where it's kind of in that gray area where we don't have a good. If you scroll down just a little bit,
2.6 million to 5.3 million years ago.
So in this particular area, they're actually
the
able
Pliocene
to date it to about 3.8 million years ago, which is prior to Homo, which is exactly what you want to see. So what this is basically what it's doing is it's showing, and the way that they word the article is like earlier than previously thought. No, it's earlier than previously known. This is now the oldest in this geographical area, because we're going to get to this too about how Africa is a pretty big place.
Right.
And in this geographical area, which has very old, versions of this kind of plan's existence. How 400,000 years is a big deal because that takes it completely, it separates from one gray area into another gray area. So you're like right in the middle. You're like, wow, I wish I had the rest of this skeleton.
Right.
Yeah, like that would be the most amazing thing ever. And we might get into that later too.
Right. And in the desert, you never know what you're going to find. All right. Next up, a book review by Lauren Coleman on the isu.edu website of Dr. Sykes's Nature of the Beast, the first genetic evidence of the survival of Apeman, Yeti, Bigfoot, and other mysterious creatures into modern times. That the name of this book just keeps changing. It's changed about 7 different times now before release, but yeah, sure, whatever. I didn't read it. I'm sorry. I honestly did not read the book review by Lauren. I talked to Lauren about it, or messaged Lauren about it, asked him some questions about it when he first actually did the book review a couple of months back. And I asked about his thoughts on the whole Laurie Simmons, Adam Davies encounters that he had in Washington. And what I was told was that Dr. Sykes felt as though they were personal experiences and wishful thinking, nothing more. However, if you read this book review, it should be in there somewhere for yourself. I'm just not going to read all that. Sorry, not interested. I'm not interested in giving Dr. Sykes any money on this book at all. I mean, it really is a farce compared to what he's trying to do with the title. He's trying to make himself relevant into the Bigfoot world with this book, but I don't really know what this book has unless it's about Xana. Is that what he's getting the title from? I mean, we know that she was sub-Saharan African. Now they're trying to pull some archaic, ancient African Saharan DNA out of her. I don't really know what's going on with this. David, did you get a grip?
I didn't really.
Well, there you have it.
I did.
At the isu.edu website. Moving on.
Go check it out. Yeah, the whole thing is interesting that he wrote a book about it, and I think it's probably more to do with the hopeful and wishful thinking of Bigfooters, and probably less to do with
any evidence of
any of the actual
the modern
evidence aside from, hey, everything that we tested came out like it came out.
Right. Exactly. All right. Now, finishing up the news tonight, we've got close calls 3 times when humanity barely escaped extinction. That's right. We almost didn't become Homo sapiens because the world was almost gone. Holy crap.
However, as we have said several times on the podcast before, it's those evolutionary bottlenecks that help to speciate. Like, we'd, if it weren't for, when they're talking about these times when we got down to as little as like 10,000, or in some cases, I think it could be as little as 600 people. Although this particular article mentions that at 1.2 million years, I think they're talking about, they say, Homo erectus and Australopithecus and a bunch of things that don't make sense as far and Homo sapiens, which was not a thing at all. Like they tie that in just so to know that it's a line that's sort of like it's moving towards us somehow, I guess. Yeah. So again, be careful what you read into that because there were no Homo sapiens 1.2 million years ago. But there were in this third extinction, or near extinction, so there's 1.2 million years. We go down, we're like 150,000 years ago. Okay, we have split from Neanderthal at that point, but we're like Homo antecessor, like we're not actually. So prior to this 70,000 years ago, we're saying we're modern Homo sapiens, and ta-da! Here's our last extinction. Why we get all this genetic material that points to one particular area for our expansion out of Africa as genetically. And this is
whittled down to between 1,000 and 10,000 people, and yet here we are at nearly 7 billion now.
Yep, and it was basically it was a super volcano that kind of just wiped out everything. Everything. Yeah, the Toba explosion was a huge deal. or was that wasn't a meteor?
Yeah.
Meteor, it was
it was a turbo explosion.
Volcanic eruption, catastrophes like earthquake, blah 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 blah. So this was a global event, like darken the skies, crazy event that we've never seen since, and almost wiped us out. And so what they're saying is this is why we have that the genetic history that we have, beginning prior to this, because everybody who was here still was genetically linked to a group of people. Very interesting. But anyway.
Indeed. All right. Well, let's wrap up the news with our other sponsor, treasuredmetaljewelry.com. That's right. They're the ones sponsoring the Silver Bullet Contest. Go out to treasuredmetaljewelry.com. Click on the Silver Bullet Contest button. Contest is running. Started the 26th, is going to end September 29th at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. All winners will be now announced on the Squatchers Lounge podcast on the September 30th show. Please follow the directions below to enter the contest. That's right. Just put your name in there. Put your email address in there. Under subject, just put in enter me, and under the message, tell them Reverend Jeff sent you. Click submit, and you're entered. That's right. We're going to pull the lucky names. We got 1 2-ounce winner, 1 1-ounce silver winner, and 3 solid copper winners. That's right. They're going to be bullet replicas. They are really cool. They make a great pendant. I talked to Joseph this week, and he had mentioned that they've got some new pieces in. The wolf tooth is up on the website. Solid silver skull is now available. A peace sign in the leaf. Yeah, they're up there as well. He's got all kind of neat pieces up there for sale. There's a nice cross online there. Kitty Cat, he'll do some special order stuff for you as well. He'll mount. There's one of the copper pieces mounted up. Boy, that looks really, really nice. Mount up some custom coin jewelry that really, really looks good. They can make incredible pieces. So check them out at treasuredmetaljewelry.com. Okay, guess what time it is? It's time for our tip of the week. As soon as I can get up the screen here and get back over here and get this off my screen, I have to bring up the picture because, well, it's just that important. So we'll talk to you in just a minute after our tip of the week. Oh, God, where did I put it? I had to move everything around. I did. I moved everything around that I have no clue where I put it, so I'll just put another copy of it up, and here we go. And now it's time for Rules to Squatch By with your old pal, Wes.
Number 46. Be more like the great adventurer Kip Pretty Pants Moral. Take more selfies. You never know what might be lurking behind you. And if anyone's going to get anything, it's going to be Kip. He takes a hell of a lot of selfies. Come check out my recent work and my art for sale at weslosner.com. Stay squatchy, my friends.
That's right. Now, that'll probably be the last one of our tip of the week's Rules to Squatch By with your old pal Wes. Not because he's going anywhere, but because we've turned it into a whole new bit. And now, Seeking Enlightenment with your old pal Wes. Brought to you by weslosner.com. That's right. Join us here. Yeah, join us next Wednesday for Seeking Enlightenment with your old pal Wes. Thanks a lot. Check it out at weslosner.com. Okay, Davey, guess what, buddy? It is absolutely that time for the topic of the week.
And now for tonight's topic.
That's right. We got all kind of craziness going on here, people. I got this thing that came across my desktop. I said, oh, now that's something new. And I think this is going to be quite interesting. So why don't we go take a look at this? 6 tiny cavers, 15 odd skeletons, 1 amazing new species of ancient human. Now, we're just hearing about this for the first time. Why? Because this was real science. Scientists found it. They studied it. They found out a shitload about it. And then they released the findings to the public. That's how real science is done. Hey, David?
Yeah, I mean, like everything else, like anthropology, like the anthropological sciences are pretty much as ruthless as the Bigfooters. I mean, there's a bunch of people, and I'll get into this in a little bit. They're like, well, not so fast. Well, they're not saying that they didn't find a bunch of bones, and they're not saying that this isn't a really important discovery. what they're saying is, well, you haven't got an appropriate data out of the bones and yada yada yada. But let's just think for a moment that the science that what they have been able to get, because I mean this sort of stuff takes time, and yeah, you get excited and you might make some leaps and you might say some things to some reporters, and then that's what they put on National Geographic versus versus what you actually put in your paper, etc. So what we are seeing is a very interesting mosaic of Homo traits, like of like.
Well, you know, we do have that piece to play. Let's play that professor piece.
He does a very very good job of explaining what they're trying to convey, and he's going to
give us a good introduction to it. So let's take a listen to Professor Lee Berger introduce Homo Naledi. Yeah.
I'm Professor Lee Berger. I'm a research professor in the Evolutionary Studies Institute at the University of Witwatersrand, an explorer in residence at National Geographic. And I'm here to introduce to you a new species of early human ancestor called Homo Naledi. Homo Naledi was discovered in 2013 by a team here in the Rising Star system in a chamber that we've named the Dinaledi Chamber, or Chamber of Stars. It is the most significant and extensive discovery of early human relatives of fossils ever made on the continent of Africa. More than 1,550 remains, representing more than 15 individuals from infants to babies to toddlers to tweens, teenagers, young adults, and elderly. The species is remarkable. It's got a tiny brain, barely larger than an orange, with small teeth, but that are primitive in shape, staying across a relatively tall body, maybe 1.5 meters tall. In the males, at least, females about 1.4, 1.45 meters, skinny, with human-like arms, but a ape-like thorax and chest with a very primitive pelvis. The hands are a mix between very, very advanced human-like hands, but the fingers are curved like very, very primitive ancient human ancestors. From mid-thigh down, it looks like a human. Long legs, human-like feet. Really a combination that we've never seen before in the fossil record. And I suppose most surprising is what they were doing in this chamber. My colleagues and I from around the world have studied these fossils for more than 2 years, studied their context, and we've come to the conclusion that this species of non-human hominid was deliberately disposing of its dead, taking the dangerous journey into this deep chamber to place its dead or drop its dead into a place inaccessible by any other. Something that prior to this we thought was unique to humans and in fact maybe identified us. Now it doesn't.
Well, there you have it. I think it's a fantastic way to actually introduce this new tiny little species, this little 3.5 foot tall monkey person, I guess, ape man, for lack of a better term, to our viewers. Now, David, what are you getting out of all of this?
So what I see, like, size is very much similar to the Australopithecine of the time and of prior, like the Afarensis that we were used to seeing. More in the so there's two cradles of humanity, and this is in the southern one, the South African cradle of humanity, versus like that Ethiopian, like East African cradle of humanity. So what this really shows us is that kind of morphing, not morphologically, like where you see from Afarensis into Erectus. And that early, like not even Erectus, but into Habilis, but that's happening at a different time. So this is really showing us how wide and widespread this actually was. And some of the dates that they're coming to these specimen are from like in the 3 million year old range, which really predates a lot of the other human ancestors, and if you want to say that those were the discoveries of like the Habilis and Ergaster coming from that Ethiopian area, this is something that's radiating through Africa. The interesting thing is that there's some similarities between these guys and some of the morphological features, at least in the skulls and the primitive features that we see in the Dmanisi specimen, which you would expect, the more primitive radiating, as you radiate out from, let's say, our gene pool center, if you will, like you would expect to see older and older looking variants as you go out, because there's less diversity to go through. So it's really interesting that this is kind of showing us everything that you would expect if you were to find something at this age, at this time, everything that you would hope to find to kind of confirm, yes, this is exactly what we would expect to see. So this was a climber. It had a rib cage for climbing trees. It was probably they were definitely spending more time in trees than any of our other ancestors that we've ever known about in the Homo genus. And the reason we're putting them in the Homo genus is there's two reasons. One is because they appear to have a fused toe almost indistinguishable from Homo erectus. And two, because to navigate these corridors in this cave, even millions of years ago, looking at where collapses may have happened, this may have happened, that may have happened, there's probably some pinch points that these cavers had to deal with that, the ancestors didn't. But to get as far back as they were, I think it was like 600 or 700 meters back in this cave, would have had to have had a light source.
Yeah, it said almost immediately the team hit several narrow pitch black corridors, a knife-edged ridge called the Dragon's Back with steep drops on either side, and finally a 12-meter chute. It's a long crack punctuated by shark teeth protrusions.
Yeah.
I remember looking down thinking, I'm not sure if I made the right decision. Yeah.
It's like, why? Yeah. Why did I choose
to go through all of that. Then at the bottom, they ease down to the area they call the landing zone before entering the fossil-filled trove that they call the 101 chamber. On the first day, they excavated a single bone, a mandible. It came out, and we said, wait a minute, this isn't what we thought. Stop everything.
This is human, or in the human line. This is an ape. How about that? Because they would their teeth would not have looked human. They wouldn't have looked erectus. They would have been more like that ergaster. And if you look, I think they have. Yeah, without the big foliage breaking incisors, like the canines that our monkey friends have, like these teeth are big and they're not like ours. Let's just put it that way. So looking at them, you would have been really confused as to what you were seeing until you realized that they didn't have those big foliage breakers in the front. And you're like, wow, it's pretty intense.
What did they think they found? A bunch of underground dwelling friggin' chimpanzees?
Chuds.
That's right.
No, so basically, yeah, the most interesting thing is, how did they get all the way back into this cave without killing themselves like 5 times over if they didn't have a light source? Even, we'll just say it this way, even 1,000 years ago. I mean, we're like, sailing the 7 seas at this point, but we still don't have a light bulb.
Right.
How did we get in there? Oh, wait, if this is really truly 3 million years ago, the only thing that we could have had is fire. Now that pushes that they're not, in that soundbite, he didn't make that claim, but apparently elsewhere. And that's where people are like, wait, just 1 minute. However, this cave is very near one of the oldest sites where they have the best evidence. There's other sites that people are, there's contention between things. This is like the oldest known non-argued site where there is fire, is within, let's just say, like, it's within a quarter mile of this spot. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And if they can link the two of them, like I said, we were talking pre-show, if they were using fire in there, fire leaves carbon residue on the ceilings and on the walls. That never goes away until it's scraped off. So over the thousands and millions of years that have gone by, limescale would form. We've talked about the water drippings and everything else. It would still be there, but they're going to have to excavate that cave to be able to figure that stuff out. Now, let's see here. Deep in the dark zone.
Deep in the dark zone. So, well, this is an interesting. When you're talking about this, the two different cradles of humanity, if you will. One is this South African area where, where we're basically saying that modern Homo sapiens was relegated to this little area, and along the coastlines there were a couple populations that made it, and they were mostly eating, sea life, a lot of clams and other things, and using tools, and so a very important area. This here is an interesting find, but this is where we've kind of historically thought of the cradle of humanity as being. This is where Erectus, Ergaster, and all these other guys come out of, with all of their tools that seem to spread all across, from here and radiate out over the earth. So what we have to do is remember that we're separating by millions of years the radiation out of this cradle of humanity and coming back down to where we had a mass extinction of basically what would be the human race. And this is where we were left at the end. So there's important parts of both of these, but the two things have to be completely separated by 2 million years. Let's just be clear about that. But yeah, so this is an important area, and this is an important area. But the interesting thing is that where we're focused on this area for our, the afarensis and early, like transition into habilis and ergaster and erectus and all those other guys here, that this was going on prior to that. And then way up here somewhere, we were also having those Diminisci guys, which means that there was we really did cover a lot more of the earth back before we're finding fossils. But okay, so here's our cave. This is what these people came through, and this, like less than 10 inches high.
That was probably a cave in.
Yeah, so these things, the fact that you can get through there is probably a good a tube that you can crawl through that was fallen down, and some of these things. But still, when you're back if anybody's ever gone caving, you go back around that first corner, or you go back down here, and there's no light.
Yeah, light does not bend.
Yeah, it goes in one direction, and whether there was, like
at the top, at the very top entrance where they see the little white guy standing there, the light would come penetrating directly down through that hole, and it would go against the other side of the wall, and it would stop.
Yeah, and it would just diffuse. And once you, but they're the fossil site is back in this other chamber. And yes, things change and things move a lot, and we all understand that. But what doesn't happen is that an entire fossil site doesn't come from back here and move back here.
Right.
Now, I mean, imagine, if you will, that these people were cave people and they were living back here. This is one of the other kind of debunker theories that I heard that wasn't the scientific version, but somebody on just in comments, because the idiocy that happens there. Anyway, we're talking about how, well, what if they were just living in there and they all got caved in and there was 15 people who died at the same time? Well, no, that seems logical. However, if they were living back here in complete darkness with no fire, well, what if they had fire and they would have suffocated? Right. Because the fire would have consumed all of the air back here, and they end it here. But this goes on, by the way, and that you start to run into deadly gases and all the bad stuff that you end up. What spelunkers have to be careful of, and they have gear to make sure that as gas bubbles up. Yeah, so there's no reason for a 3 million, a 2 million, a 1 million year old ancestor to be this deep back into a cave, unless they were either hiding a body, and that's even far-fetched, honestly, for me. But there has to be a really good reason to get back in there. And one of the reasons that they don't basically bring up that I could think of for myself is actually disease. Say somebody got the flu and they just forced them back into this cave.
You are just jabbing them with a stick. Back there, punk. All the way. Come on now.
And
You're
you
sick.
know, like, no, go ahead. Just crawl on through.
Don't worry. We'll come get you when you're better.
Yeah, you're America's problem now. No, but this is I don't know, like a really interesting situation, and we don't really understand it. And some people have made some very bold postulations that are based on a lot of things that they've seen and that we haven't, and people can poo-poo on it, and that's fine. But this is a really interesting find. There's a lot of people that have been critical of it, so I just thought I'd bring some of that stuff up.
For sure, my man. I mean, dude, it's like every time there's a new hominid found, everybody, oh, it's not, that doesn't prove anything. Well, this thing has feet just like ours. That actually kind of means a lot. It's one of the things that we've been looking for, is to find another upright walking bipedal species like ourselves that, actually would have a remnants leftover population at some point to become the Sasquatch. All right, David's got the world up for us here. He's going to show us what's going on.
I've got the whole world in my hands.
Got the whole world on my brain.
Again, I pointed out the sort of geographical area here, and where we're kind of looking down here. So what I'd want to point out before I kind of go into like the next sort of thing and talking about a couple of human ancestors, just really quickly, I'm going to just go through this really quickly, I swear, is the amazing distances that we're talking about. And when we're talking about the short amount of time that it took, 70,000 years, 60,000 years to populate the entire globe, from a point down here from our meager 1,000 to 10,000 member species, right? And you think about millions of years, millions and billions of years. Go Carl Sagan for a moment. Here is where we're talking about a lot of these tools radiating from after what we're talking about down here. But prior to those tools showing up here, we have these, somewhat contemporary looking guys down here. And then a little, they're later. We talk about gene flow. We talk about evolution. We talk about parallel of evolution and even just the way that everybody's kind of going in the same direction, but in different geographical directions. What you have to think about is South Africa to South Ethiopia. I mean, you could fit like 2 Americas in here.
Right. You're talking
two USAs, right?
We're talking 6,000 miles.
This continent of Africa, you can fit most of the other known landmass from the Earth in this. So this is a very much like a misconstrued thing. However, and you look at okay, so the ocean lines are different or whatever, but the Himalayas that created this drawing here, this is something that's very important. But at 1.8 million years ago, and we brought this up several times, those Dmanisi Homo erectus that actually have some similar traits to these guys way down here, we find them way up here in Georgia. That's incredible to me. That if you're thinking, okay, in a 500,000 to 700,000 years, you've got early looking hominid here, contemporary guy here, early looking hominid here. If you think about radiating it out and the actual amount of gene pool that you have to deal with and how evolution works, that makes an amazing amount of sense to me. And I just like to bring that up here. However, it does leave those possibilities. And I like, these guys. And as far as we know how things have moved, and these could have been down here for sure, these could have been hairy apes. Up here, we found some examples, but how long had they been up here? These could have been hairy apes. that just happen to walk upright and have feet just like ours, but don't look like us at all. Very interesting for that Sasquatch question for sure. And those are the sorts of questions that I want more answers to. I need timelines, damn it.
That's right. And it's going to take another 5 years before we get any of those answers. That's right.
Yeah, that's.
This is definitely a candidate for a full genome, though. This is something they're going to use that next gen stuff that Crazy Ketchum was talking about using on the Bigfoot stuff.
More nopes than a bag full of nopes.
Nopes.
It's too old. So
it's basically rock at this point.
Yeah, there's you can get the isotopes from data off of teeth, maybe ish, depending on how it was preserved. That would be interesting for sure. And might actually, there could be carbon. There's some data saying that some of our early ancestors may have eaten charcoal for supplement, and they can see that, like, well, they actually must have had fire if they were eating charcoal.
Well, yeah, if they were eating, or they were discovering, charred plants after wildfires, or
So of course, there's always that the skeptical mind, but but that's what science is there for, right? Yeah, I mean,
right. Well, charcoal also purifies water. That would be a way that you'd have charcoal introduced into the system. So, but charcoal would still require fire for that. If you're purifying water, then
if you drink dirty water, you chew up some charcoal and try to purify it in your stomach. It might work. You never know. But no. So there's a lot of really interesting. Interesting stuff that's coming out of this, and it's showing the bushiness of the hominin family tree, and it's basically the more information that they're going to get from this, and the more that they can date it, and the more that they can do comparative studies. And I would love to see somebody do a study like from South Africa, Ethiopia, and say they're from a similar enough time, like within a few 100,000 years of each other, and do a comparative study between the Dmanisi the fossils from the same time in Ethiopia, etc. That would be a fantastic comparative study, and would probably teach us a lot about how evolution works, just in general. Amazing stuff.
I want a time traveler machine. I want to be able to go to the future and see how this shit all worked out. Anyhow, folks, that's actually going to do it for this edition of the Squatchers Lounge podcast. I hope you guys have an idea of where it fits. I like it. I like the thing. It shows that there are other species out there with human-like legs that walk upright. Just like I've always said, we're going to find more and more species as the spiderweb evolution, as I call it, is going to move out from there. The family bush, because it's not a tree. It's definitely friggin' bushes and little bastards that spread out everywhere. That's what the more we confine them to geographical areas where we have found bones, which is the appropriate thing to do, because you can't say that they're up there when you haven't seen them up there or down here or over there. So when we continue to look and we continue to scratch the surface and we continue to have these finds, we'll continue to kind of shape our idea of how our ancestors moved, and hopefully someday that leads back to some squanch. That's right, everybody. Well, that's going to do it for the Dr. David Batdorf, pseudoscientist. I am your host, the Reverend Jeff Kelly. We say thanks for watching. And whoops, that's not the picture I wanted to put up there. God, I am just all thumbs tonight. Thanks for watching, and may the Squatch be with you. Look at that, I even found the theme.
That's a handsome chap, by the way.
Oh, dude, yeah.
The guy who does those reconstructions is
total stud.
He is a monster. He's really good.
Next week, join us. I think we're going to talk about something in Patagonia. All kind of strangeness going on in the Bigfoot world these days. Drama's not what you're going to find here. That's for damn sure.
Nope.
The bucket still got plenty of room, people. Hey, go freaking sign up for the Silver Bullet contest. treasuredmetaljewelry.com. I want to see a whole bunch of entries tomorrow. I mean it. Peace.